Like, they didn't believe I could do it. And
everyone said that you couldn't.
He was like, just try to reach it.
Just try to reach it.
I'm gonna do it.
Hi, it's Niki from Conviction, and today we're in the good company of my dear friend and old colleague, Jess Yeh. Jess doesn't just fill roles, she architects teams. Jess dabbled in ops and sales before finding recruiting, and after building Rubrik from 50 to 1,500, she was hooked on hypergrowth. So when Glean came calling, she joined as employee 10 and built the entire people function from scratch. If you want to know what separates a great recruiter from a good one, then no one tells it better than Jess. Welcome, Jess. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Well, obviously, we've known each other for a long time, and I've been a fan of yours for many years. You've done some really crazy things in your career, but more recently, you've been at Glean. You were one of the first 20 employees and have done a lot of early building with Arvind. Mm-hmm. How did you think about recruiting in those early days, and then how did that change as you guys scaled?
You know, in the early days, it's very much like you know, no one knows who you are. You are still trying to build that brand recognition. So a lot of your talent is going to come from referrals, kind of your founding team's connection, and really lean on VC. And that's kind of how we, you know, grew the team in the early days. I always like to say, you know, there's a specific group of people for every single stage, like every single funding round even. You know, you're trying to find the right fit for that specific stage. Now, I would say we have tons more brand recognition. People know who we are. So the challenge kind of switches where, you know, now we have a lot of interest and it's about kind of sifting through that and making sure we're finding the right people, you know, kind of amongst the noise. But at the same time, we're still kind of leaning into our existing team and kind of tapping into, like, who did you like working with before? Mm-hmm. And so that's always stayed consistent.
You talked about the power of referrals, which are so powerful early days. How do you think about spending your time building referrals versus like sourcing net new people?
Yeah, I mean, when you're early, for instance, if you're the only person on the team, you kind of just have to divide it up evenly. And mm-hmm. It's a lot easier, I would say, to kind of block time to do the things when it's just yourself. Once you have a bigger team, you do have to kind of think about how you want to spend each portion of your time. And it also ebbs and flows depending on, for instance, like if you have a ton of inbound, like that is a place where, you know, you probably need to spend more time versus like earlier on, you're not really getting much inbound. So you're really trying to build top of funnel through sourcing and referral. So it does kind of switch, I would say, as the company gets bigger. It just depends on the stage.
If I remember correctly, in the early days, Glean had an insane close rate. Mm-hmm. It was like 80+%, which is wild. How did you do it?
Yeah. I mean, I would want to, you know, credit Arvind for a lot of the early building. He was the first recruiter technically before I joined, right? And so you really have to lean on your founders and really have to lean on the existing team to help you close and help you sell that vision as well. So I would say it's a big collaboration. And the stronger that collaboration is at that stage, the better you're going to get, right? With that close rate. It's really about helping an engineer imagine what it would be like to work mm-hmm. there and be behind that vision. Yeah.
Well, especially if you're generating a lot of pipeline through referrals, mm-hmm. you can leverage those existing relationships to help close at the end. Obviously, engage at the beginning, but close at the end. Right. Is there a story or something that stood out to you in the early days in a creative way that you leveraged a relationship to close someone?
The one thing that stands out to me is we used to, in the very early days, meet in Arvind's backyard, like once a week for, I don't know, team bonding, happy hour. It wasn't like an official work thing, but we would invite candidates to that just to, you know, kind of give them a glimpse of our culture.
Mm-hmm. That's so smart because you are really giving a glimpse into what it's like to work there. But speaking of events, you are the blueprint for recruiting events, programs. What was your framework, especially early on? Like I remember the Rubrik days where you mm-hmm. would be super creative. what was your framework in thinking about how to structure or build these out?
Yeah, I think with any programs or events, you kind of have to work backwards. So if your goal is, for instance, when we were recruiting to hire 40, 50 new grads, then you have to build a strong program around, the internship program, right? Everything that we did was tied to that one goal. One thing Arvin and I really aligned on was just to start from day one and be really strong with diversity and top of funnel. Having been the first person, I was also on the inside, doing HR and workplace. So I got to, kind of create Women at Glean. And it started off with just, like a lunch with 6 of us every quarter. But that really spiraled into now this full-blown program where we have a whole team running things. That's just one example, and I know diversity could mean a lot of things, but as an early stage startup, you kind of have to tackle, gender to start and kind of go from there.
I think today, there's tons of events, there's tons of conferences that you could go to and try to recruit, try to do tons of things. How would you advise founders to figure out what they want to prioritize versus what's just noise?
Yeah, I think it does go back to my previous answer of just aligning with your goal. I will also say, early days, founders typically spend more time recruiting and attending events versus, once you get larger, you kind of have to pick and choose. So that early investment is really important in terms of where you spend your time. Also, sitting with whoever you're working with, whether it's maybe the president of a club or a person running an event, to kind of understand what is the ROI, right? If we send someone, do we get a stack of resumes after? Who are the types of people that are attending this event? And does that align with, who we're trying to target? So that's kind of the thing I would, sit down and think through.
How do you think about building relationships with people? Let's say they do want to recruit at these events. How do they build relationships with people at these events if it's not a event specific to recruiting?
I mean, I think one-on-one conversations are really valuable. If you ever go to a networking event, I'm sure, you're not talking to every single person. So it's really, the insightful conversations that you get from those events that make you go back and think, wow, they must be building something great. And I think as a recruiter too, probably less for founders to keep track of all these things, but as a recruiter, it's easier to build those relationships and also maintain them from company to company because, it's your career isn't just one company. For instance, when we hosted events at Rubrik, those relationships have lasted past Rubrik.
Yeah. I mean, they could leverage relationships that they had of previous employers before they started their company, to your point of recruiting events that they went to or interviews that they did.
Right.
And those are all strategic ways to now re-engage with these people of hey, you really left a strong impression on me from our interaction at XYZ, which is a kind of creative way of reaching out to people and connecting with them. Absolutely. Throwing it back to our university recruiting days, there's no one better at sourcing university or early in career folks than you. What is your framework for looking at high slope folks?
You're looking for signs of success. It could be from high school and seeing that they're taking classes at community college while they're in high school, or they achieved awards, for, I don't know, some math competition, right? So I think what we're really looking for is that any sort of sign of success, however early it is. Going into the university, I guess, phase, what we're really looking for is industry experience. So internship experiences are really big, especially if you've done one at a startup. That's really valuable for another startup. As a university recruiter specifically, I would say it's you sort of have to be an expert of the different universities that you're in charge of. Every school is so different, and to be in the know of the best people are in this club or this class, is really hard, and this major is, better than this major. These are things that you kind of just learn over time. our team internally, in terms of like our engineering managers, they love to see side projects, just to show you're passionate about something. I think that's really important. So those are just some things, at a very broad level.
What's your biggest recruiting ick?
Ooh, I have a couple. I would say the biggest one for me, and for some reason this has been happening more than I've ever seen in my career, it's reneging on start date.
Oh, no. Yeah. Has that been happening a lot?
That has been happening a lot. And then, another one for me is just people that are unresponsive, especially after you've made a connection. Like, it's fine if, you're trying to reach out and they don't respond, but once you've made that connection, they ghost you. That's a little bit, like disrespectful in my opinion, but it's fine. I understand people are busy, but it is, something that for me personally, that's one of the things I nitpick on.
Well, what's a recruiting hack that you think is under or overrated?
Yeah, I would say what is underrated would be building trust. It goes a long way, and your relationship doesn't stop just because this opportunity doesn't work out, whether it's they don't pass their interview or they decline our offer. Because again, your career is quite long, and the relationship could go a long way. I've hired people that didn't work out at previous companies that worked out at another company. And so I would say for interviewing, like, that's an important tip to think about is, recruiters will kind of interchangeably, move around as well. And so to keep those connections is really important.
Such a good point that great hiring is not transactional.
Yes.
It's about relationship building and doing the right thing for the other person on the other side. And that can be a recruiter, founder, even a candidate, to your point, of just thinking about this as like a long-term relationship that you're building.
Yeah, absolutely. And I truly believe like in helping people find the right fit, even if it's not your company, right? And helping them identify that is really important too. I think that's the role of a recruiter. Yeah. What is overrated? I think I am not a fan of just throwing comp at people. And I know that's a strategy that works. We've talked about it, especially in this market where it's insane. Like the comp that we're seeing and things like that. And a lot of companies, especially early stage companies, we've seen just kind of throw out some crazy numbers. In my opinion, that's not sustainable. Having been, the first G&A hire at Glean, I've also had to run the HR side. And so I got to see, how performance reviews go and things like that. And fairness is really important when you're, going into those. And so I can see how unsustainable it is for recruiters to use that tactic, I would say. But I know sometimes it's necessary, but it's just something that, in general, I like to stay fair.
Yeah. You've closed a lot of people. What is your best strategy or best piece of advice for a founder, recruiter on how to become a better closer?
I mean, be genuine. I think like people can sense whether or not you believe in your company, and whether or not you're on their team too, like to help them grow. And the best hires are the people that you genuinely have a strong connection with and you really want to work together. So I would say just be really clear about your mission, kind of your role in the company, help the candidates see what it would be like to work there. And I think that could really give them a good picture into whether or not this is a good fit for them. So yeah, I know it sounds simple, but that's my best tip.
Well, speaking of great closers, who is your recruiting GOAT?
I definitely want to credit Arvin again because, again, he was the first recruiter on the team. You and I have learned from him as well at Rubrik, and he does lean a lot into recruiting. He cares deeply about, the people joining his team. And still today, he invests a lot of time into helping us close. And so, I would say I've learned a lot from him. He's, been my manager for 4 years, and so, definitely seen him have some of those genuine connections with people. But I'm also biased, and I will say, everyone that I've been able to work with and bring in on the talent side at Glean has been really incredible. And I truly do look up to a lot of them. This is like the only thing I'll brag about is the team that I was able to build there. So yeah, I'm really proud of our talent team.
That's amazing. And a +1 on Arvin.
Yeah.
We learned so much from him. And to this day, I use so many of the teachings that he imparted on us back in the day at Rubrik. And so he is truly an incredible recruiter. Well, speaking of why someone should be at Glean, you've built a great team.
Yeah.
Give us your Glean pitch.
Sure. Simply put, Glean is just changing the way people are working. If you think about our personal lives and how much our decisions are affected by search and ChatGPT, Glean is simply doing that for work, anything that's, work related. And of course, these days, everyone's talking about agents. Glean is certainly spending a lot of effort and energy, focused on this as well. But kind of from where I'm sitting, and this is a big reason why I joined Glean as well, is it's way bigger than that. Like we're not, a search or chat or even agent company. Like if you think 5 to 10 years from now and where AI could go, it's crazy how fast it's moving. Glean will be in a position to really be able to take all of that insight into how people are working in their specific role, in their specific company, all over the world. And we're able to use the best technology and AI tools to be able to innovate and, continue to develop our product. So, I would say it's honestly limitless, like what we can build. Another reason why I love Glean is for everyone. And we weren't able to do this at Rubrik where, we couldn't use the tool or the product. And that was a huge draw for me coming to Glean was I can actually recruit for something that I use. It's true. Like here, I've been a user since day one. My team uses Glean. We build our own agents. We're really putting the power of building in people's hands with agents. And you really get to see the power of Glean through that because like our lives are changing. We get to kind of share with our customers what's working, what's not, and really help everyone that's a customer, have a more productive work life, right? And then, like I said, in the future, thousands of companies. It's just, I can't even think about it. But yeah, I really feel like there's a crazy opportunity ahead of us.
Well, thank you for spending some time with us.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it and giving us all the insights on recruiting in Glean.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was really fun.